Hey Google phone, what's up?
Hello, Steven. The time is 9:43 a.m. Nothing much going on right now.
This is the new 2014 Moto X. This is going to be an honest review of this brand new phone from Motorola. It is the fall of 2014. This is the hottest new device that Motorola is offering, an update to the great Moto X. Stay tuned for this fanboy free, this honest, this non-biased look at the new 2014 Moto X. Alright, so probably the biggest difference, the biggest thing you're going to notice over the new Moto X compared to the old Moto X is the design change. This is a 5.2 inch display, 1080p AMOLED compared to a 4.7 inch 720p screen on the original Moto X. And so that makes it a substantially larger phone to hold on to. They've also added a metal or aluminum body onto the phone, which used to be plastic on the old Moto X. You still have the same customizable back and color accents. You can see this is the wood version, which I actually really like a lot. I think it keeps the phone a little bit lighter, has a really nice feel in your hand. They've added a ring flash around the camera, and the accents actually have color on the top and bottom of the speaker, the sort of speaker grills here on the front. So all in all, I actually like the design of this phone, but I do have some pet peeves about it. The first is that the indent here, which in my opinion on the previous Moto X really was a nice place to rest your finger. It was sort of like a home button. I mean, you picked up the phone and you put your index finger here and it was a nice place to rest it. But unfortunately with the increase in screen size, that no longer works because then you can't reach everything with your thumb. So what you end up doing is shifting the phone around. And it actually gives you this sort of weird false sense of security now because you can still feel that nub, that indent, but you don't actually get to put your finger on it. And so it's kind of awkward feeling in your hand now. It doesn't feel as good as the original Moto X. But getting away from the little dent here, we'll talk more about the body. You know, I do like what they've done with the design. I do think it's an improvement. I like the aluminum. I like the customizable backs. I like the color accents. But it just, you know, this phone just doesn't have the same feeling as other premium phones. I mean, if we look at like an iPhone 6 here as an example, the iPhone knows, or excuse me, Apple knows what they're doing in terms of design. And this is a premium feeling smartphone. I'm sorry, but Apple wins, I think, here with the iPhone design compared to the Motorola Moto X. Motorola has done a really good job. I think that they've improved it, but some of this stuff just looks a little bit gimmicky. The round, flash here, this button, like I said, that doesn't fit right anymore. It's just not as put together and as solid feeling as the iPhone 6 is. We'll get that out of here for now and just focus more on the Motorola. Other improvements that you'll see to this phone compared to the original Moto X's, they've obviously increased the processor. It's now, I think, a 2.5 gigahertz Snapdragon 801, so it's pretty speedy. But there's an asterisk there because we'll get into this later. There's actually a little bit of lag in the phone, which is pretty annoying and pretty frustrating considering it's almost 2015 and Android still has lag. But anyway, other improvements, they've updated the camera, and I think it's now a 13 megapixel camera, but we'll talk more about how that's not really that great either. Front-facing camera, I don't know, but also rear camera can actually shoot 4K video, which is really impressive from a consumer cell phone to have that option. But again, design-wise, I do like it. I just think it's not as great as it could be. I think that when you compare it to other phones that are out there, even the Nexus 5, in my opinion, which is plastic, still has sort of a cleaner, nicer look to it than the Moto X. Battery life is pretty good. I actually think that you get about a day of use out of it or so. Haven't done any serious battery rundown tests yet, but it lasts on par with some of the other top-of-the-line phones, Nexus 5, running Android L, iPhone 6. A day of use or so, average use, text, emails, calls, Facebook browsing, internet browsing, that sort of thing. Nothing stellar, nothing weak to report about the battery life. Screen technology is AMOLED, so you're going to get super saturated colors like you do on the Galaxy series. In my opinion, again, this is personal opinion, I prefer LCD IPS displays better. I just like the color accuracy and color sort of quality on these types of displays like the Nexus 5 and the iPhone 6 better than I like on the Moto X. It's good. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a nice display. It's really sort of saturated. I think having the AMOLED display helps with battery life when you have your sort of screen off instant notifications that they have. But it just looks too saturated to me. But again, that's more personal preference than anything else. And so jumping into software, the software is probably the best part about this phone. And it's a double-edged sword because, yes, it's running Android, but it's running a Motorola skin version of Android, which includes this great feature, which is the hands-free sort of Google Now integration. And of course, yes, the Nexus 5 includes the Google Now integration, but it doesn't include it with the screen being off. And so I can talk to the phone and say, "Hey, Google phone." And the Motorola answers me and listens. The Nexus doesn't do anything because I have to have the Nexus on in order for it to actually hear me. So that's a great feature about this. I think that's one of the strongest selling features of this phone is the complete hands-free integration of voice control, and I really, really like that. The only thing that's a bummer about it is there's not really a way to cancel it hands-free. It's going to listen to you, and even if you say cancel or quit or stop, it's still going to listen to you and try and figure out what you're saying. But anyway, that's besides the point. The other great thing is the active notifications. Like you see, I have an email here, right? So I can just pause here and read the headline of my email. I can actually ask the phone as well, and it'll tell me, "Hey, Google phone, what's up?"
Hi, Stephen. The time is 9:54 a.m. Frank Trey, I'll send you a Gmail at 9:49 a.m. with the subject iPhone 6 Plus 128 GB Gold Factory Unlocked.
Anyway, you get the idea. The phone is really, really well suited to hands-free and operation and voice controls. And so, it's really nice to have that feature, especially when you look at other top-of-the-line phones like the iPhone, which has nothing of the sort. I mean, iPhone has Siri, but that's completely hands-on. You actually need to hold the home button to do it. Google Now on the Nexus phones and their launcher has the same idea, but you have to actually be on the home screen, so the phone has to be on for you to talk to it. And so, again, really, really handy, really nice feature. One of the other things they've included is a hand wave to sort of dismiss incoming calls, which is actually sort of nice. So if the phone is out of your reach, you can just wave your hand over it and reject an incoming call. That's kind of gimmicky. I mean, that's sort of Samsung-esque in terms of its eye movement, motion tracking nonsense. But I don't know. The thing is you don't have to use it. So it's frustrating in late 2014, almost 2015, that we have elements of lag in this phone. I see it sometimes when I swipe over to my Google Now page. I see it occasionally when I launch apps. There's a few drop frames. There's some subtle hints of lag in the device, and that's unfortunate. I think that at this point in the game, we really, really need to get Android up to par with other leading manufacturers in terms of getting rid of the lag. The iPhone with iOS 8 doesn't have any sense of lag in it. The Nexus 5 with Android L doesn't have any lag in it. So Motorola, something's wrong with the software, whether it's the sort of hand wavy stuff that they've incorporated or other features like the built-in voice control. It's unfortunate that this phone still has lag in it. But getting away from that part of the software, we'll talk about the camera and the quality of the images. The camera app I don't really like. I think the Motorola camera app is really annoying. What it does is every time you press on the screen to focus, it takes a photo, and I find that really sort of annoying. My workflow is to tap on the screen to focus and then use the shutter button. And you can set it up so that you can move this around, this little icon here to focus, but you still tap on the screen to focus. So I get in the habit of tapping, and then that will actually take pictures, which isn't the way I want to do it. So I ended up downloading the Google Camera app, which for me works a lot better. You do get to tap to focus, and you still get a dedicated camera button. As far as camera quality goes, the 13 megapixel camera is actually pretty good. I do like the results from it, but when you look at them side by side compared to, say, like the iPhone 6, you'll notice that there's not as good noise control in the darker areas. Color accuracy on the devices, or in terms of camera quality, the iPhone is a much better camera. But is it still a decent camera? Yes, they've done a decent enough job with it. But I would like a stronger camera in a flagship phone. And when the Motorola offers a great package in terms of its hardware and its voice control, and then it's lacking in the camera feature area, it's a bummer. So my point of this is that there are better cameras out there than the Moto X. So to sum it up, in terms of one statement or one final comment or series of comments on the new 2014 Moto X, this is a good phone. Is it a great phone? No, it's actually far from it. I think Motorola has improved on the original Moto X. I think that they are one of the only Android manufacturers out there to offer a customized piece of hardware, and for me, that's a really big selling point. I really like the fact that you can add wood grain, leather backs, you can change the accent colors. The fit and finish of the phone is good. I wouldn't say it's great. As I said earlier in the review, the iPhone, I think, is a better design. I'm not a huge fan of the 5.2-inch screen. I think a little bit smaller is ideal, maybe 4.7 or even 5. But 5.2 for me is getting a little bit too big. But when you talk about overall user experience, which is ultimately what drives people to buy phones, that's why the iPhone is so successful, is that people love the user experience of the iPhone. They don't care how many gigabytes are in it or processing clock speed and RAM, and no one cares about that on the iPhone. They want a great user experience, and they get it. They get a solid piece of hardware that looks good, that feels good, that runs fast, and that they love to use. And so Motorola and all of the Android OEMs are trying to duplicate what the iPhone has done because the iPhone is so popular. I think Motorola has fallen a little bit short here. The design is great. It's a great update, but to me, it still seems a little bit gimmicky. It still seems a little bit lacking in terms of camera quality, device performance. It's close, but it's not perfect. And so until I find the perfect piece of Android hardware, I'm still going to be searching for a new phone every time these new Android flagships come out. And so when you, the consumer, are spending your hard-earned money on a new device, I would like to think that you would want the best bang for your buck. And in my opinion, in this honest review, the Motorola Moto X is not it. I think that there are other choices out there from companies like LG with the Nexus 5, which is a cheaper phone than the Moto X is, or even an iPhone if you're tempted to buy into the Apple ecosystem. Again, Moto X is a good phone, offers lots of good features, offers a great sort of customized buying experience. This is one of the only things on the market right now. But is it a perfect phone? No, it's actually really far from it. Hope you guys have enjoyed this honest review of the new Moto X. Don't forget to check out everything else I have on YouTube and rate, comment, and subscribe.